2019. At this time, I'll call the City Council, City of Grantville, into its regular monthly meeting. Mr. Mallory, would you please lead us in invocation? If we could rise for that and remain standing for the pledge after.
Prayer. Our gracious Heavenly Father, we thank you for the station, bless us good, Father. We thank you for blessing our town, watching over our town, Father. We pray for your presence at this meeting tonight, Father. We pray for the feel your presence. We pray for your guidance. We look to you for guidance in our decisions, come together in unity. We pray for guidance for our mayor, our council, our city attorney, our city manager, Father. We pray you bless each one who came this way, bless the families and homes. We ask this in Jesus' name, Father. Amen.
Amen.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, first order of business would be the approval of the agenda. Do I have a motion to approve the agenda?
Motion to approve.
I have a motion, do I have a second?
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Do you have any questions? Hearing none, all in favor signify by aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes have it, so ordered. Next order will be the approval of the minutes for September 23rd, 2019 City Council meeting. Do I have a motion to approve the minutes as published?
Motion to approve.
Do I have a motion? Do I have a second?
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Do we have any questions? Hearing none, all in favor signify by aye.
Aye. Aye.
Opposed? Ayes have it, so ordered. Next order is discussion and approval of film permit application for Big Indy Underground Inc.
Yes, sir, Mr. Mayor, this came to us on our work session, and the chief of police has been working with the location manager, Tribal Blake, and we recommend approval of their film permit application. They will be setting up on Sunday, the 2nd of February, 2020, through Thursday, the 6th of February, 2020, and they will be filming on the Friday, the 7th of February, Monday, the 10th of February, and Tuesday, the 11th of February, 2020. As I said, we recommend approval.
Okay, you heard the recommendation of the manager.
Motion to approve.
I have a motion to approve the permit, and a second.
Second.
Any questions?
I don't have a question, I have a statement.
Okay.
When the company comes, we want to point them also to another part of our city, Roger On Road and Clarence McKember Road. I live on Clarence McKember Road. We need to come film up there. That's my statement.
Anybody else?
You know, so every time there's some filming goes on, if this takes off, we've all talked about, we want activity here, but they'll have to get a permit every time.
Correct.
Because, you know, I said this before, you'd like for everybody to benefit, the city, the citizens, business owners, and everybody benefit from this, and then not be kind of lopsided, so I support this. I'm just saying that I hope it turns into something better and it works out for everybody concerned.
Yes.
Okay, anybody else? All right. Hearing no other questions, all in favor of approving the permit signify by aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes have it, so ordered. Next order of business will be a first reading of ordinance 2019-12 to amend section 2-24 of the Code of Ordinance to amend the rules for regularly scheduled council meetings.
Yes, sir.
Go ahead.
Yes, Mr. Mayor and the council, this is an amendment to your rules for regularly scheduled council meetings to add a rule number 10, which provides that unless otherwise provided in this code, procedures for meetings of the city council shall follow the most recent edition of Robert's Rules of Order. So it just makes clear that that is what you'll follow as far as procedures for your meetings. And this is the first reading, so no votes necessary tonight.
Okay. All right. Next item is discussion on the veto resolution 2019-08. Resolution to approve. Okay, it's on there, to approve banking service for the city of Grantville was adopted in February 2019. I thought we took that off because it was, you said it was untimely.
Well, it is untimely. However, the city attorney said that the veto could stand.
I think the discussion the council had at the work session was they were gonna go ahead and vote on the issue that was presented in the veto letter, which was the budget items.
Motion, Mr. Mayor. Motion to reject the veto as it relates to the banking issues that were done last May.
Seconded.
Last one,
When was that?
February?
We're talking about a veto from way back when, right?
Yes, sir.
Well, I'm motioning we reject the veto,
Override.
override, thank you, Mr. Mayor, override the veto.
Okay, a motion to override, is a second.
No second.
We have a motion, second, do we have any question, discussion?
Well, technically, it was timed out, am I right, or it wasn't, there's no need to vote on it, the veto was timed out.
Mr. Mayor? I think this relates to his misunderstanding of what he was actually vetoing. It was a misunderstanding.
I agree, that was a misunderstanding, and we sit right here in the work session last week, and the city attorney didn't even have the ordinance with him, but he turned around and told him it was okay for him to attach the wrong ordinance to the veto.
Aren't we?
Now, I'm just saying that the resolution to change the banking thing is timed out as far as his veto days. So there's no need to vote to override it. It shouldn't exist to begin with. Now, we move on to the ordinance and not the resolution.
Motion on the floor.
A veto of the resolution, which was adopted in February 25th of 2019, would have been untimely. That is correct.
Right, so it's really it doesn't take an override.
I would agree with that.
It's just, I guess, what's the proper term, it goes away. And we move on to the ordinance.
But the council decided to leave it on there and do.
No, the city attorney sit and told you it was okay that you put the wrong ordinance on the veto in the work session.
Okay, that's where you.
Because when it was brought up that you were vetoing the United Bank for banking, nobody in here knew what was going on. Everybody had a question mark on their face. Well, come to find out, you meant it to be the line items in the budget. So technically now, the United Bank banking services was done in February, and it's past the point of time that you could veto that anyway. So there's no override to that.
Mr. Mayor? We have a motion and a second on the floor, and council has said we don't need it. Council, what's the best way to get rid of this right now?
Well, as clearly, the letter, the mayor's letter makes reference to two different things. It makes reference in the Ray line to veto of resolution 2019-08, which, as the city manager pointed out, is a resolution that was adopted on February 25th of 2019. The letter also makes reference and has attached to it makes reference to the ordinance 2019-08 adopted by the city council on September 23rd, 2019, and certain line items from that budget. So the letter makes reference to both. I would agree that as to the issue of the resolution, there is no need to take any action because that was untimely. As to the reference to the ordinance and those line items in the ordinance, then that would have been timely, and I think action needs to be taken on that just to clarify the issue.
And that was discussed the other night also, because I pointed out that I had attached the item and made reference in the body of the letter and asked for an opinion in each.
That's not my point. There's no
What
need,
is your point?
there's no need in overriding a veto that shouldn't have ever been.
Okay, I think you just proved it.
Okay, well then, Jim just made a motion that we override the veto. There's not a veto of the resolution. We need to move on to the ordinance. Now, if you're gonna combine the two, it's not legal.
We're not gonna combine nothing.
Okay, well,
But, like I say, the attorney just explained what it was, and,
so we're gonna
It is-
override we're gonna override the veto of to approve United Bank for banking.
no, if you give me an opportunity, I'm gonna ask for a motion or a withdrawal of the motion.
Mr. Mayor, I made a motion, I think you need to call for a vote. As the council said, this puts that mistake to rest, and then we can move on.
Is that what you want? Is that what we need to do?
It's not what I want.
No, I mean, is that?
I think Councilmember Sales is right, there's a motion on the table, there's a second, he's not withdrawing his motion,
Okay.
so you gotta move ahead and vote on it.
Okay. All right. Any further question, discussion?
I think if you're gonna do it like this, none of it's legal. If you're gonna tie the two together,
Not gonna do it, we're gonna vote.
It's not-
each one.
okay, you're fixing to vote on an override of a veto that doesn't exist. But go ahead, go right ahead.
Mr. Mayor, before you vote, can we just clarify, our yay, if we vote yay, is to override the veto? It's got a little confusing, so the motion and second on the table is to override this veto. Thank you.
Override which veto?
The one
Do
that
you
is
understand, he technically, he can't veto something that happened in February, Jim. Now, if he wants to veto the ordinance that went on in September, he's got that right. But there shouldn't be a veto here from something that goes back to February. That's my only point.
Okay, but if you will allow this to proceed, we can be done with it. He wants done with it too, and we're going to get to his current veto.
Okay,
It's coming.
go ahead and vote on a veto that shouldn't have never been here. Go
That
ahead.
is-
And maybe what you wanna hear is an apology on
No,
my
no,
part.
no, I'm not
And
asking for an
I
apology.
do
It was a mistake.
apologize that, I made a
Nobody's
mistake.
asked for apology here.
I'm,
I just don't think the veto should be voted on.
I'm an imperfect
Period.
human being, what can I say? Any
Mr.
more questions or discussion? Okay, all in favor of the motion, signify by aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
No.
Ayes have it, so ordered. Yeah. Next one is 2019-08 to adopt the fiscal year 20 budget, City of Grantville, adopted September 23rd, 2019, items specified, vetoed by the mayor as follows. General Fund, Police Department, vehicles in the amount of $120,000. Electric Fund, vehicles amounting to $25,000. Gas Fund, vehicles in amount of $25,000 for a total of $170,000. Do I have a motion?
Motion to override the veto.
Motion what?
Override the veto.
Motion to override the veto. I have a motion, I have a second.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Do we have any questions or discussion?
Yes, sir, can you explain to us why you chose to veto this after we all agreed on the budget? And some of this even goes back to last year when we put a plan in place to rotate police cars and designate money to buy new cars, so we wouldn't have any that we were spending more on than we were getting out of them.
Yeah, I think I explained it in my veto if you bother to read it. My reason for this action is the items are not necessary at this time. You may agree with it or disagree with it. That was my reason. Any more questions or discussion?
I believe Alan made a mistake in saying it was just last year that we approved vehicle replacement for the police department. Yeah, I believe it was 4 years ago we made that decision, and in doing so, we have actually committed ourselves over a longer period of time to do just what we said. We're going to replace the vehicles until something better comes along, black and white here before us. I think we're obligated to stand up to the decisions that we made and support the police department.
We want to include the electric fund and the thing too.
I'll include the electric fund and the gas fund because to have the money in the budget doesn't mean we have to spend it. It just means that the money is available to do certain things. And those vehicles, maybe we're gonna need them, maybe we're gonna buy them, maybe we're gonna lease them, but at least if the money is in the budget, we have the money available to do that, and after the 1 mil increase that we just sustained, I think it's important that we, and the city manager came back to us with a balanced budget. The city council approved that budget. I think it's the wrong thing to do, to take them out of the budget. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Anybody else?
Mr. Mayor, first of all, just a small semantics correction. We didn't all vote for it because I voted against the budget. And when you talk about balanced budgets and everything, it's a misnomer. The 2018 budget was overspent by $470,000. My contention is we don't have an accurate budget. What we have is a spending list. And we are not focused like we should on the city's money. And I think we are reducing our reserve funds dramatically every year because the budget continues to go over. And the new budget is $600,000 higher than the previous budget. So I voted against that much increase. Thank you.
Okay, anybody else? Okay, like I say, I don't remember when or if it was agreed on about the replacement of the vehicles, but you said it was 4 years. He said it was last year. It was 4 years. One council can't bind another council for it. Then your other point, Mr. King, was that just because they're in the budget, we don't have to buy them. And that's what I was told last year. And then subsequent to that statement, when it come time to spend the money, I was told, well, it's in the budget, we gotta spend them. So, I don't know, bottom line, I've done what I feel was financially right and it's up to y'all to make the decision. But like Mr. Sells said, I think we need to, try to watch his spending more. So, unless anybody else got any comments, all in favor of overriding the veto signify by
Aye.
opposed.
Aye.
I oppose overriding the veto.
Can I have you opposed? Al? You
I oppose the
You
veto.
opposed?
I
Yes.
oppose the veto.
You opposed it?
You have a tie, Mr. Mayor.
Alright, now I'll break the tie in favor of upholding the veto. Next order of business would be discussion approval of intergovernmental agreement between Coweta County, City of Grantville, and Sheriff regarding the detention of inmates at the county jail.
Yes, sir, Mr. Mayor, this is a routine matter because we have a new sheriff. He has asked that we update the intergovernmental agreement between Coweta County, Georgia, the City of Grantville, and the Sheriff of Coweta County regarding the detention of inmates at the county jail.
And you recommend we do it, right?
Yes, sir.
All right, you heard the recommendation, city manager. What's the will of the council?
Mr. Mayor, I make a motion that we approve this intergovernmental agreement between the county and the City of Grantville.
Do you have a motion, do I have a second?
Second.
Have a motion and a second, when you have questions or discussion. Hearing none, all in favor signify by aye.
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 Opposed? Ayes have it, so ordered. Next item is discussion approval of resolution number 2019-27, 2019 year budget amendments.
Yes, sir, Mr. Mayor. This is a resolution to amend the fiscal year 2018-2019 budget for the City of Grantville. In Exhibit A, we are reducing one line item, adding $6,000. We're reducing the line item by $6,000 and adding $6,000 to the cemetery line item. And then in our seized funds, our drug fund, we are adding $40,000 to our confiscations and adding $40,000 to our expenditures. Basically, it's a wash item, but for the Department of Accounting and Audits, we have to have those two budget items which do not appear to be within the fiscal year 2019 budget as adopted. We recommend approval.
Okay, you heard the report of the city manager, what's the will of the council?
I'd make a motion that we amend the budget as per the direction of the city manager.
Second.
Have a motion and a second. Have any questions? I have a question too. Now, on Parks and Recreation, we are taking money from somewhere else and putting it in, or taking it from there and moving it to?
We're taking it from that line item and moving it to cemeteries, $6,000, because in our 2018 budget, we went over cemeteries by $600, and we got digged by the Department of Accounting and Audits. So we're increasing the cemetery line item so we don't have that challenge this year.
And the same way with the, next item. We're
The
taking
seized
for-
fund, the drug fund. Yes, sir. that is merely a Scrivener budget item. However, we need to have that done because that balances the budget with expenditures.
So we're moving it from the drugs to the public safety.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Stays in the same fund. It's just an accounting move.
Okay. All right, that's all I have. Anybody else have any questions? Hearing none, all in favor, signify by aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes have it, so ordered. Next order, discussion approval of resolution 2019-24 to terminate banking services BB&T.
Yes, sir, Mr. Mayor. The resolution number 2019-24 is an audit requirement that you have to terminate your banking services with one bank after you go to another. As you know, in 2019, February the 25th, we approved our transition to United Bank, and we're going forward with that transition. And one of the reasons, other than customer service, was the fact of service charges. And I have 3 examples of BB&T service charges Vice United, and as one of our council members, Councilmember Sales said, it appears the Ritz-Carlton of banking is BB&T. When I went to get a business wire transfer from BB&T, it was $65 per wire transfer. United's charge is $25 per wire transfer. When I wanted to transfer one of the accounts that had a balance of $4,808.83, we transferred that money and we had an overdraft of $51. When asked what the $51 was, that was a service charge that came up within 3 months. Then we looked at another account, and that account had a balance of $13,822.01 on the 31st day of August. When that account was transferred on the 11th day of October, not even 2 full months, the bank charges we incurred were $329.53. I think that our move to United Bank and terminating our banking services with BB&T will certainly lessen our bank charges if these 3 examples are any indication. So we recommend approval of terminating banking services with BB&T once our transition of banking services to United Bank is complete, which we hope will be by
I'm thinking, however, the recording and minutes would reflect what was actually said. I'm opposed to terminating the services that BB&T offered until a discussion is held with the officials of that bank and see what they would do for the city rather than to lose the business of the city. So those are my thoughts.
Thank you, Ms. Hines. Anybody else? All right, hearing no more comments, all in favor of terminating the services for BB&T, signify by aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
Ayes have it. So, and next item, discussion decision on 2019 LMIG, which is local maintenance of the roads project, Griffin Street, pavement repairs and resurfacing Highway 29 to Main Street, and Charles Patterson Road, pavement repairs, resurfacing from Allen Road to the CSX Railroad crossing.
Yes, sir, Mr. Mayor. As we talked about in the work session, one of our T-SPLOST projects, and T-SPLOST will be voted on November the 5th, is Griffin Street pavement repairs and resurfacing from Highway 29 to Main Street. In light of that, we are suggesting that an alternative project that the city council might consider is Charles Patterson Road pavement repairs and resurfacing from Allen Road to the CSX Railroad crossing. The CSX Railroad crossing at Charlie Patterson is also on T-SPLOST. So these two projects together, the T-SPLOST project of the CSX Railroad crossing at Charlie Patterson and the Charlie Patterson Road pavement repairs and resurfacing from Allen Road to the CSX Railroad crossing may give us more bang for our buck. And if T-SPLOST passes, we will also have Griffin Street pavement repairs and resurfacing from Highway 29 to Main Street. So we are recommending that the 2019 LMAG project be Charlie Patterson Road pavement repairs and resurfacing from Allen Road to the CSX Railroad crossing.
Okay, thank you. Heard your report. What's the will of the council? Do I have a motion to accept the recommendation of the city manager?
Motion to accept the recommendation of the city manager.
Okay, I have a motion to accept the recommendation to make Charlie Patterson the LMIG. Do I have a second? Do I have a second? And let record show the motion failed for lack of a second.
Can I ask a question about that now after the motion failed?
Well, we're actually moving on with,
That's fine. I can ask later.
let you.
I can ask later. That's,
You know, you can open them if you want to make a motion.
that's okay. I can ask it later. That's okay.
Next order, discussion approval of service agreement with Demand Star Corporation.
Yes, sir, Mr. Mayor. The agreement has been approved by the city attorney, and we are hoping that if we enter into an agreement with Demand Star System, they use a website to post documentation and communicate with suppliers about our proposals or formal bids, and it also notifies subscribers about our services. We are using this to try and get more responsiveness to our requests for proposals and bids. Unfortunately, even though when we advertise in the Noonan Times Herald and it goes on a national bid site, we are not getting much response. This is an attempt to get more response. There is no cost to the service. Obviously, the people or the suppliers and vendors that join the network must make, pardon me, that was a wrong word. I am not aware of who pays the service charges to keep this Demand Star going. All I know is that it is free to the city of Grantville. And the agreement can be terminated at any time by either party upon 30 days prior written notice to the other party. So, in my way of thinking, it is valid to see if it works. If it doesn't work, we can opt out of it. So we recommend approval of the service agreement with Demand Star Corporation.
Okay, you've heard the report of the manager. Do you have a motion?
I make a motion, Mr. Mayor, to approve this service agreement with Demand Star Corporation.
I have a motion, do I have a second?
Second.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Do we have any questions or discussion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes have it, so ordered. Next item is discussion and approval of resolution 2019-25 declaring certain city property as surplus.
Yes, sir, Mr. Mayor, we have 4 items. 26 Jeep Grand Cherokee, 1994 Ford, 555D backhoe, a 1995 spray tractor D18B, and a 1994 GMC Top Kick truck. If the council votes to declare them surplus, they will be sold on the GovDeals website. We recommend approval because getting them off our vehicle list lessens the vehicles on our insurance policy.
All right, you heard the recommendation of the manager. What's the will of the council?
Motion to approve.
We have a motion to declare the property surplus. Do we have a second?
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Do we have any questions or discussion?
I have a question for Mr. Grisha. Have we sold the code enforcer's truck?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Do you have the amount it was sold for?
$1,500, yes, ma'am.
Thank you.
Any other question or discussion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes have it, so ordered. Next order of business, discussion, approval of term of newly appointed Commissioner Donnie Clark, who's replacing Linda Dean, whose term ended on January 17th, 2020.
Yes, sir. For the record, we just need approval of that term. When the council appointed Mr. Clark to the Historic Preservation Commission, we inadvertently did not say when the term would end. So this puts it officially that the term ends on January the 17th, 2020.
Okay. What's the will of the council?
Mr. Mayor, I make a motion that we approve the term for Donnie Clark, who is replacing Linda Dean, whose term will end on January 17, 2020.
Okay, I have a motion, do I have a second?
Second.
Second.
Okay, I have a motion and a second. Do you have any questions or comments? The only question I would have is that the only position that's open right now? Is there none with a longer term? Because it looks like that's only for a few months. And
Yes, sir. When it came up at that time, that was the term open. He is eligible for reappointment, but this just keeps the record straight for Ms. Cody and the Historic Preservation Commission. They're all eligible for reappointment.
Okay.
It's not like they're gonna serve a couple of days and then, no.
All
So-
right.
And there is one open seat.
Now,
But it wasn't at the time, so. okay.
correct.
Oh. All right, anybody else got anything?
Mr. Mayor,
Go ahead.
I'll be abstaining. I won't vote up or down because I don't know Mr. Clark. And I really wish these people that want to be on it would have a little more information than we get besides this little piece of paper and all. Because there is a tremendous amount of power with the HPC. And if it's abused, if you stack that deck up so you can punish people you don't like, you're doing great harm to the city of Grantville. So if I don't know the person, if I have no more information than we've been getting, I'm just going to abstain. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Okay, anybody else? Do we want to call for a vote, or do we want to wait for Mr. Waycase to return?
I'd say wait for Mr. Wickes, sir.
Okay.
Let it be a full council decision.
I'm fine to wait, but I do remember a time when we asked to wait and the mayor pushed it forward. So when we wait for someone to go to the restroom in the future, I hope that continues to be the policy. Because when nature calls, sometimes it doesn't understand the clock.
I'm sorry, I just never sit down. And every time I come to a meeting, I sit there and I'm sorry.
Jim explained for you. Nature calls.
I'm sorry, I don't never sit down and this is unusual.
We are not saving the earth. Granville's important, but we can give you a minute.
I'm sorry. Happens every meeting.
All righty, all in favor of appointing Mr. Clark to fill Linda Dean's term, signify by aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
I abstain.
One abstention. Okay. Next order, discussion decision on complaint by Selma Cody against the Grantville Historic Preservation Commission's decision to grant a certificate of appropriateness to allow a storage shed and tent on the lot located at 43 LaGrange Street, Grantville, Georgia.
Mr. Mayor, certainly the city attorney can weigh in on this, but it appears to me that section 20-6 P in parentheses of the Code of Ordinance deals with appeals. And as it is on the agenda, any person adversely affected by any determination made by the commission relevant to the issuance or denial of a certificate of appropriateness may appeal such determination to the city council. Any such appeal must be filed with the city council within 15 days after the issuance of the determination. Number one, the city manager does not think Ms. Cody qualifies to file an appeal. She was not the individual seeking a certificate of appropriateness. Number two, the city manager feels that the appeal was not timely filed. So, the city manager opines that the city council has no jurisdiction to hear the appeal.
You heard the city manager's report. What's the will of the council? Or do we have one? Or do we want the city attorney to weigh in?
We've got no motion, Mr. Mayor,
That's why I'm saying, I can accept the motion to have the city attorney weigh in. If anybody wants to do that.
I make a motion that we hear what the city attorney has to say concerning this.
Okay, I got a motion, do I have a second to it?
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any questions or discussion on that? Hearing none, all in favor signify by aye.
Yeah, we didn't hear
Are
from
we
the
gonna have the
attorney.
city attorney weigh
I
in
need
on
to
that?
hear from it, that's what I'm saying.
I don't
Motion
think
is
that-
to hear from him.
That was all handled right, but
So,
why do we have to vote to hear what the city attorney has to say about?
Because I asked for the motion and they made a motion and duly second.
I didn't know we had to vote on something to ask the city attorney's opinion.
Well, since we voted, can we
There's
just,
a motion and
can we just hear what the city attorney has to say?
Without a vote, yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Okay. I would agree with the city manager. I think while Ms. Cody's, letter that she submitted to the council is styled as a complaint, there is no provision in the ordinance for a complaint. It is an appeal. In order to appeal, the ordinance is clear that an appeal can only be filed by a person who is adversely affected by the determination. So I think in order to hear or consider her appeal, you would first have to determine that she is adversely affected. Certainly, as the city manager points out, that section is clear that the appeal has to be filed with the city council within 15 days after issuance of the determination. And so if the appeal, which was filed on October 2nd, is more than 15 days from the date of the determination, it is certainly untimely. The final issue, if you got over the hurdle of determining that she was adversely affected and determining that it was timely, you then, in order to do anything, would have to find that the commission had abused its discretion in making its determination. And I don't know that there's any, while Ms. Cody may not agree with the decision of the council, I don't know that there's any evidence, certainly in her letter is set out, to indicate that the Historic Preservation Commission abused its discretion.
And do we need to take any further action on that as far as disposing of the?
Well, I do think, I mean, there needs to be, I do think there needs to be some action on it. I think if you find that that you reject it or take some action one way or the other.
Mr. Mayor,
Go ahead.
I make a motion that based on the city attorney and city manager's information, we set this aside with no action.
Okay, I have a motion, do I have a second?
Second.
I have a motion, second, any further questions or discussion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes have it, so ordered.
Under the ordinance, Ms. Cody can now take this matter to the Superior Court of Coweta County if she determines to do so.
All right. Next order of business, discussion on the proposal from the Grantville Historic Preservation Committee to amend section 20-6F of the Code of Ordinances, City of Grantville.
Yes, sir, Mr. Mayor. Ms. Cody's here and could probably describe this better. However, let me try. Right now, our code requires the Grantville Historic Preservation Commission to hold public hearings on all applications for certificate of appropriateness as part of the review process. They would like to amend the code to give the commission a choice whether or not to hold a public hearing as part of their review process. Certainly, I leave that before you without a recommendation. Although, I will say, the city manager favors public hearings.
Okay. What's the will of the council on that?
Can I ask him to repeat all that, please? I ain't being funny, I wanna hear it again. I mean, I do want to hear it again, that's all.
Okay, well, the city attorney or Ms. Cody can weigh in. Right now, our code of ordinances requires public hearings on all applications for certificate of appropriateness as a part of the review process. We have to advertise it, the Noonan Times Herald. We have to post the property. So those things have to be done before a public hearing is held. And the notice in the paper has to be more than 10 days prior to the public hearing. As Ms. Cody points out, and as in your agenda package, state code gives the commission a choice to hold or not hold a public hearing as part of the review process. So, the Grantville Historic Preservation Commission is asking that that the city council amend the code to give them discretion whether or not to hold a public hearing as part of the review process. As I said, we make no recommendation. However, the city manager is in favor of public hearings because we never know when someone might file a certificate for appropriateness and it be denied without their knowledge because a public hearing hasn't been held. Further, I say not.
Now, based on that, has anybody got a motion one way or the other?
Mr. Mayor,
Go ahead.
I motion that we reject the request to change code of ordinances for HPC.
Okay, I have a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
A motion and a second to deny. Do we have any questions or discussion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
No.
That throws it on me.
Yes, it does.
Before you make the decision, could we reread the motion?
The motion is to
Reject the changes and leave it
reject
like
the
it is,
changes.
as the city manager requested.
Yeah.
Or opinionated, not requested, opinionated. Thank you.
And, so by me, if I was to vote against that motion, I would in essence be voting in favor of approving the Historic Preservation Commission amendment.
I don't think that's necessarily the case. I think you'd just be voting against a motion to reject it. I don't think you would be, I think another motion would then have to be made and passed to adopt it, if that's what was going to happen. I don't think your vote, if that were to be your vote, would have the effect of approving it.
Okay,
It either would or would not reject it.
okay, then I vote against the motion. So,
But with that being said, we did not adopt it.
That's exactly right. Now you're kind of back to square one.
So the motion, if some one of these others wanted to make a motion, would it be proper?
Another motion would be proper.
Mr. Mayor, I'd make a motion that we amend section 20-6-F and approve that motion.
I have a motion, do I have a second? Have a motion to approve the amendment, do I have a second? Hearing none, motion,
I'll second.
okay, I do have a motion and a second. Do we have discussion?
I have something to say. I think this gives an appointed committee the ability to treat one circumstance different than another. I think it gives it the opportunity to be biased. I think it gives it, it's not, it could turn into not fair to everybody that owned the property. I think that's something that it should have stayed like it was, so that everybody has a public hearing, or we don't have any public hearings. But for the historical committee to make that decision, I don't think that's appropriate.
Okay, anybody else?
Yes, Mr. Mayor. I believe that the people we have on the historical, the HPC, I do believe that they are fair and will be fair in their dealing with whomever come before them. I just believe that. Now, with the understanding that, you know, we don't get along with everybody and everybody have a different opinion and we don't like people's attitudes or personalities and all of that. But I believe that the group that we have, they will do what is right and fair in this situation. I believe that, and I will believe that until I see differently.
Thank you, Ms. Hunt. Anybody else?
Mr. Mayor,
Wait.
couldn't disagree with Ms. Hines more. I absolutely couldn't disagree. Take away open records. You see what we just dealt with this last issue? HPC lost twice. And we're in here with documentations to try to abuse this citizens and property rights. HPC lost twice. I wanted to build new houses in the Mill Village. And they were so hostile toward me, I didn't even put up a COA, but it's coming. It's coming. The HPC, in my opinion, the footprint is way too large and it's hostile. So it's padded up. So my recommendation is, let's leave these open hearings. And then I can't complain about what they do. But you start giving them the ability to call a meeting and do it without any notification, and you're setting yourself up for a lawsuit because someone's going to be abused, and we're going to wind up down the road wishing that we had kept records open, and then I can't complain. I've just expressed an opinion. But I'm really hoping you don't let them go behind the scenes and have the ability to abuse people that are trying to do good things for the citizens of Granville. Thank you.
Okay, anybody else?
Yes, I'm in accord. We will agree to disagree, and I understand what you're saying, Mr. Sales. But I will forestate what I've just stated. I believe that the people who serve on the HPC are people of integrity. And they will do what is right. And I believe that until I see differently.
Anybody else?
Well, I would ask the city manager, he would possibly know this question. It says, although negligible, there is a cost factor involved for advertising. We're advertising with the New York Times Herald at this time, and they're publishing 3 or 4 times a week now?
Twice.
Twice a week now.
They publish on Wednesday and Saturday, and they're delivery by mail. I can tell you, I'm a subscriber, so my Wednesday paper comes in the Wednesday mail, and my Saturday paper comes on Saturday.
And our cost in advertising in that paper for a public hearing is what?
It varies on how long it is, $15, $25. It's my recollection, because they go in legal ads, they come out now, they come out in the Wednesday paper, thank you, Mark. In the Wednesday paper, along with all the other legal ads. And that cost is negligible. I believe it's $15 to $25 per ad.
The next question would be to Mr. Mitchell. By doing this, are we violating the Open Records Act?
No, sir, you're not violating the Open Records Act. Their meetings would still be open to the public. This isn't closing their meetings from the public. It's simply, if you change the ordinance, it wouldn't require that a public hearing be held as described by the city manager, where the property is going to be posted, there's going to be a set public hearing, and an ad run in the paper that as a notice of a public hearing. But their meetings would still be open and subject to the Georgia Open Meetings and Open Records Acts.
Thank you.
And their agenda would be posted on the bulletin board and go on the website. That would be the notification.
Thank you.
Mr. Mayor,
Go ahead.
notification posted what, 24 hours in advance of the meeting?
Depending upon, it has to be.
What
It has to be at least.
At
Yeah,
least 24
so-
hours.
So Thursday at 5, they can post their meeting. Thursday at 4:45, they can post their meeting for Friday at 6 PM and then make a decision.
Sure.
That could happen.
Wow. You know what, I just might miss that. Hope it's not important. Thank you.
We all miss meetings. Sometimes it just, times, it's just not right.
But, can I say something? So ultimately, the simple of this, is this gonna give our historical committee the right to choose that, at their discretion, that some people are gonna have a public hearing and some won't? Now, Mr. Mitchell, have you looked into this, and is this common in most cities?
I haven't looked into how common it is.
I-
It is consistent with state law. State law does allow that you can have the process that they are asking you to implement. State law allows it. Now, how many other cities have implemented something like that? I haven't looked at that.
Well, it may allow a historical committee to do that, but I bet you if you dug into it, it's not consistent. Now, I'm going out on a limb there because I don't know, but I would just guess. Yeah.
Okay, anybody else? Okay, all in favor of approval, signify
The
by.
motion is to reject it, right?
No, that
We
motion was
done that.
voted on,
I'm
and
sorry.
Mr. King made a motion to approve it.
All in favor of approving the amendment, signify by.
Aye.
Opposed?
Opposed?
No.
It was good. two questions for the attorney before I cast my vote. Does this interfere in any way with due process of the applicant?
Well, again, could someone make that argument? Potentially so, but it is allowed by state law.
Okay, second question. If they went this way and they were rejected, they would still, am I correct, that they would still have the appeal to the full council?
Yes, sir, this would not affect the appeals process. They would have the appeal to the council, and then if not satisfied there, a potential appeal to the Superior Court.
All right, based on that, discussion, I will vote in favor of the amendment.
Now, let me say, this still doesn't amend the ordinance. You've simply voted in favor of tonight of the recommendation to do that. So now we'll have to prepare the proposed ordinance, and there'll have to be a first and second reading of that in order to actually accomplish it. So this is gonna come back before the council for a vote again. The vote tonight simply was to accept the recommendation or the request of the Historic Preservation Commission. So now we'll have to, now that the council's decided what you want to do, we'll have to prepare that amendment and have that at your November, thank you, November meeting for a first reading.
Okay. And you'll start that process?
Yes, sir.
Process, I hope. All right. Next order of business is discussion decision on Christmas bonuses for full-time, part-time employees. $500 for employees with over 1 year of service, $250 for employees with less than 1 year of service. Money has been budgeted.
Motion to approve.
Okay, I have a motion to approve Christmas bonus.
Seconded?
Motion and a second. Do you have any questions or discussion? Nobody? I'll make my same spiel that I do every year. But what I say here, I say in private. I've worked for state governments, I've worked for city governments, I've worked for county governments. I have yet to receive a Christmas bonus of any kind. And this bonus is compliments of the taxpayers of the city of Grantville if it's approved. Having said that, all in favor of the Christmas bonus signify by.
Aye.
Opposed? Let the record show I oppose. All right. And, how many employees we got full-time right now?
26,
26? How about part-time? Or,
3, 4.
and those 26, they got a year or more?
Yes. Well, let me retract that. Without looking at personnel records, I'm not sure of 3 of them.
All right. All right, next, order of business, the announcement of the holiday schedule. That's just for information, or you wanna?
Yes, sir, that's just for information, but that goes to the next item, discussion decision on rescheduling the regularly scheduled city council meeting on Monday, November the 25th, 2019, to a special called meeting on Monday, November 18th, 2019 at 6:30 p.m. due to the Thanksgiving holidays. We recommend approval.
Okay. We didn't already approve that?
No, sir. We discussed it in the work session, and there was no objection to that, nor the December meeting moving to December 16th. But we need to take official action at this meeting, because when we announce it at this meeting, it's noticed to all.
Okay. All right, do I have a motion to change the meeting?
Mr. Mayor, I make a motion that we reschedule the meeting for November 25th to November 18th.
Have a motion, to have a second.
Second.
Have a motion second, have any questions? Hearing none, all in favor signify by aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes have it, so ordered. Next is discussion and reschedule, meeting in December.
I make a motion that we reschedule a meeting for December 23rd to a special call meeting on December the 16th at
Yeah.
6:30.
Have a motion, to have a second.
Second.
Have a motion and a second, do we have any questions? Hearing none, all in favor signify by aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes have it, so ordered. Next order of business be discussion and termination of ad hoc budget committee, 3 council members and 5 residents.
Mr. Mayor, this was an idea that was given at our GMA conference. And I would just like to say, I hope we can implement this so that the citizen would know that once we go to these meetings, we do bring back things that can be beneficial to our city. I believe we can, I'm hoping maybe it could be 2 council members and 5 citizens. And I hope that we can vote on that, on this tonight, and the citizen who will volunteer to serve, I believe can bring much to this city in our financial situation. So my motion is to
Approve the committee.
approve this ad hoc budget committee with 2 council members and 5 citizens.
Have a motion, do I have a second? Have a motion to create the ad hoc budget committee consisting of 2 council members and 5 residents of the city. Do I have a second?
With
Aye.
2 council members, I'll second it.
I'm sorry?
With 2 council members, I will second it.
That's what you, all right, I have a motion and a second. Do we have any questions?
Was the first motion made with 3?
No, 2.
Oh, okay.
I have a question if you ask. When this committee's formed, and I think it's a good idea, but who else will be involved in the meetings? I feel like that even with 2 council members and 5 residents, that somebody that's, whether it's our financial advisor or the city manager or our financial consultant, somebody else that is knowledgeable about budgets and projections and things like that should possibly be encouraged to attend, maybe not required, but encouraged.
Mr. Mayor, you finished?
Did you finish?
Yeah. It was just
I
a-
would hope that our manager
Well,
would be present.
Yeah, well, that,
And who is the accountant for
Stuart.
the city?
Stuart Mills, well, not, I'm sorry, he's the one that deals with the budget, primarily is Stuart Mills.
The guy who's in the office sometimes? Okay, I would hope that our manager would be present.
sure.
Okay.
And I just think if could be, maybe Mr. Mills attend, or 2 along. Anybody that had some, financial smarts.
And the city council members would need to appoint 1 person, see, to this board. And, you know, if they serve 1 year and decide they don't want to serve again, we reappoint. You know? But I think this would be a good move for our city.
Now, anybody else?
So they will serve 1-year term with the possibility of a reappointment?
It could be,
Okay.
it could be like the ethics board. How many years do they serve?
They can
Two.
renew, but it.
Those two or three? Two, okay. So they could serve 2 years.
Okay, do we need to do something on the ordinance to create this board and everything, a resolution or something? And then, my second question would be, how are we gonna designate which council members?
Maybe they could volunteer.
I think all that needs to be covered either in an ordinance or resolution. Maybe resolution might be that's up to the council, however the city manager feels on that. I don't feel strongly one way or the other, but I do think there needs to be some document that sets out what the terms are and what, if any, what role this group's gonna play in the budgeting process, possibly certain things like that, whatever but that's more of an operational thing, so I'll leave it at that.
You think if we do it with a resolution?
Yes, sir.
Alright. And you think you can get it by?
It'll be on the work session on November the 11th.
Alright, sounds good.
Did we vote?
Then we're not, looking to see if we got a motion second, do you have any more discussion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
I oppose.
Ayes have it, so ordered. Next order of business will be discussion decision on, forming and appointment of volunteers to serve as ethics committee board members.
Mr. Mayor, I believe that has been taken care of because all the council members have nominated 2 people. So we're at the point now where we will send out letters to see if these volunteers accept their appointment. If they do, then we will have our pool of volunteers.
I have a question clarification or something here. I'm looking at page 5/7 of the ordinance. And it says the mayor and council members shall each designate 2 qualified citizens to provide a pool of 10. And I'm looking at this list, and the way I'm reading it, Councilman Sales, you appointed one either or of the other. And to me, I think it has to be one or the other, not your choice, depending on. You see what I'm saying? It appears to me that that's appointing 3.
Well, there's an or in there, so I think what Councilmember Sells is saying that one of those individuals will volunteer to serve.
Then my argument is let me appoint possibility of a 3rd one too.
Well, certainly that's a
And
possibility.
Each member of the council, or let's follow the ordinance and just name 2 people.
Well,
It's not 3, it's,
then
And
Councilmember
or.
Sells will be asked to clarify who he'd like to appoint. I mean, I think there's also a misspelling
here he is.
with your appointments, Mayor. I think it's Mr. Lundy, not Mr. Monday.
I'm gonna say it's a typo because
And with Councilmember King, I believe Ms. Latrell's name is misspelled, but we'll work all these things out when we send the letters. What we have now is a pool of 11 with clarification coming from Councilmember Sells who he wants to appoint.
Now, that's what I'm saying, I think we need to decide that. In other words, the way I'm looking at it, if we had a board to come up with, there'd be 11 names in there instead of 10.
Well, I agree if we had 11 volunteers. We're only gonna have 10.
You're only gonna have 10.
Only 10.
11 names.
You got 11 names here.
So which one of the names is it?
Which name do you want?
Well, let's ask Councilmember Sells. Would you like to appoint Darwin Palmer or Patty Palmer?
Darwin.
There we got it. All right. So do we need to take any action on approving these lists? Sorry, because it's just,
We can approve it. However, if the individual does not, in fact, volunteer to serve via a letter acknowledgement and confirmation, we'll go back to the respective council member and ask them for another name. So I don't think there's any action to be taken on approving the said list of names until they confirm their appointment, which has to be done by a signed receipt letter acknowledgement.
well, I can't speak for anybody else, but my two people I have asked and they agreed to serve. I would think or hope that before the names were submitted, people would have asked if they're willing to serve, but
Yes, sir, we hope.
Have we approved the resolution on the ethics committee like we're gonna have to do on the budget committee? Have we already?
There's already
Yeah,
an
it's already
ordinance in
done.
place that
Okay.
establishes
Okay, that's
that,
right.
yes, sir.
Okay.
so you saying nothing's official until they sign, say, I agree to,
Correct.
I thought we just sent them a letter the last time notifying you have been appointed.
Well, we got confirmation last time because there was an argument that some hadn't confirmed. So we'll do it proper, whatever it needs to be done.
All right.
And Danny Clay's name is misspelled too, out at the bottom.
Yes, I see that.
All right. Next, no action required on that.
No, sir.
Next item is announcement of Christmas parade and lighting of the tree.
On November the 30th, 2019, at 6 p.m.
All right. Next item is citizens' comments. Love it. Mr. Cecil.
Good evening, Marion Susan, 29 LaGrange Street. Very briefly, I just want to ask you, what's the situation with the water? Some people are concerned, is it safe? Pertaining to, the letter that was put out, I didn't receive the letter myself, but an individual put it on Ramble Nation that he's all upset about the water. And so can somebody explain what the situation is with the water? Is the testing okay? Is the water safe to drink, etc.?
Okay. Water is safe to drink. We missed the test. Environmental Management Services missed the test and because of missing a test, it requires us to put out that letter. Testing has resumed, and the water is safe to drink.
What specifically, was it we just didn't do the testing, or we did?
Correct.
How can we- how
They
can-
missed the test. When you miss a test, you have to put out that letter.
Why did we miss a test?
Environmental Management Service missed a test. Why they missed it, I don't know. However, we have better Bye.